Um, so when I went to college, I was not practiced in generosity or gratitude, and I was very self-involved, as many of us are. Um, and in the midst of my lack of enthusiasm for making friends, I found out that, um, and my inability to decide what to study, I found out that music majors received free private lessons at the school. And I played guitar, so I signed up to be a music major. And so in the spring of my freshman year, um, I started taking lessons in guitar and cello, which I'd never played before. Um, and I started to play the cello like a lot. Like I would play 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours at night, and just became really in love with it. And it was like totally an escape. Like I was in the practice rooms, I was alone. I didn't have to talk to people, but it was awesome. Like I could have these moments of total super abundant being, and just felt great. I just felt great, and so I played more and more, and then I started studying with a teacher at the school. I started studying Indian classical vocal music, and he convinced me to go to India for my abroad semester in my junior year, and I didn't own a cello. I was just renting one, but that summer I built one that I could break apart into a box and take it on the plane. And I found this woman who lived in Delhi, and she was one of two people in the world who play Indian classical music on the cello. And she had this cello, it was made in Germany, but she had rigged all these sympathetic strings that ran across the body, and so when she'd play a note, she'd get all these beautiful sympathetic undertones, and it was super awesome. And so I contacted her, and she told me I could come and meet her when I got there. And the program I was in was nomadic, so it was very, very open, and I had a month and a half for independent study. And so I went and met her, and she was there in her house with her husband, and her husband was a man named Shubendra Rao, and I found out that he was the primary disciple of Ravi Shankar, and he was the premier sitar player in the country, and I was studying with these people once a week, and I'd never really played Indian music on cello, but I was learning these things. It was great, and then they told me about this practice that was a perfect evolution of my self-imposed isolation stuff, and it was called a chilla. And in a chilla, an Indian musician is given a prescribed set of scales and routines, and then put into a room for 40 days, and they're not allowed to leave the room, and they're supposed to play 12 to 16 hours a day in this room and just play the exact same thing at the exact same time every day. And then when they come out, they give a performance. And it dates back to Vedic rituals, where if you get something wrong, it's an 18-hour ritual, and you have to start the whole thing over, kind of thing. So people have to be very, almost hypnotic about how they go about their music. And so for my independent study, I got a room up in the Himalayas in this little inn, and I had my cello that I built out of plywood and barely made any sound, but I sat in this room, and I would wake up at 4 a.m. and play till 8 a.m., and then I'd play from 9 to 1, and then 2 to 6, and then I'd go and get dinner, go back and go to sleep and do it the next day. And the first few days, it was amazing. In this room, I got a window, I'm looking at the Himalayan mountains out the window, and there's monkeys, and I'm playing these scales, and it was super cool. And by the 10th day, it was in cold, and I was really sad and lonely, and I was missing my mom. I was crying every day, but I powered through it. I did it for I think it ended up being 32 days, which is not the full thing, but that's all I had. And then I go back. What am I doing? Yeah, this is good. I go back to Saskia, the cello player's house, and Shubendra's house, and I sat down and started to play this raga for them. It's called Yaman Kalyan, and I got 3 notes in, so it's like do re mi. And Shubendra stops me. He's like, no, that's not right. And then they didn't let me play anymore. And they showed me how to do it correctly, but then they both looked at me and they said, we don't think you're ready to play music alone. And that's all I had been doing. Like, I hadn't played music with people ever in my college years, and like, except for like an orchestra rehearsal, which doesn't count really. Like, doesn't count as far as like interpersonal playing. And so like, I mean, at that moment, I just was like, I'm like such an idiot right now. Like, I just have been going about this all wrong, and it's all just an escape. And I was like, just like 2 years of sitting there with the cello, like, and like just total regret and like naivete just washed over me. And now I only play music with people. So that's my story.